Video games are a vehicle for many things: ideas, artwork, and beliefs. Just like other media, video games may be influenced by its creator and their own beliefs/ideas, but maybe these things would heavily influence the artwork someone makes. In a lot of museums I have been in, I have noticed a large amount of Christian paintings. The multiple paintings of Jesus Christ being crucified or the Virgin Mary, paintings of heaven and hell. There are so many Christian paintings that you realize you don't know the names of these artists. Sure, if it's a popular painting you do, but if it's not as well known, the artist is gone. And most of these paintings look so similar that you don't really differentiate the artworks. These paintings make you realize how most of these artists who spend months making these paintings with blood, sweat, and tears won't be remembered. So why did they paint? For what reason? Why create just to be forgotten? Well, it was just so that they could serve the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Turn that around and assault little children or animals. They torture, torment, kill.
They're sacrificing in their animal mutilation. They'll do it within a pentagram. They'll put black candles on each of the points of the pentagram.
You don't think you're targeting Muslims?
Absolutely not. And it's obviously that it's promoting violence against people who do not believe in a particular sect within Christianity.
Video games are a complex subject for Christians because, well, most of them do not promote that Christian values. Of course, games like GTA are shunned by most Christians, but then there are games like Fortnite that some Christians despise, or some that use it to manipulate people into joining the Christian religion.
Every other scripture before that has ever happened and saying that it's not true.
Who, me?
Anybody.
Now, this isn't a video where I just say Christianity is bad, because I think as a Christian that would be a hypocritical thing to say. But I want to dive into the connected history of the church and video games, because I have seen some people who are Christians who have been trying to get more people to join the church by using video games. Christianity and video games have had a long history with each other. So to learn a bit about it, no, we are not going to go back to the first ever video game. This won't be an hour-long video, hopefully. Now, video games in the beginning weren't that important for the Christian faith. They weren't as connected to each other as one would think, except for this post about Pac-Man on a Christian site I found and I had a good laugh about. The younger of our brilliant honors division daughters returned from her university at Christmas time with a big red raw blister on the palm of her right hand. In the salacious manner of fathers, I demanded to know what happened to her. She muttered something about some man. What? I cried. A man did this to you? A man has tortured my little child? She turned away in shame. It wasn't a man. It was Pac-Man. She choked out. Then she turned to me with desperation in her voice. You must help me, whatever you do. Give me no money, no matter how I beg and plead. Pay my bills at college directly. End my checking account. Warn your friends that I might hit them up. It's Pac-Man! It's just Pac-Man! With this evolving medium, some religious organizations saw an opportunity for the youth to go and get more connected to the church. Since around the time there was the Satanic Panic, a large historical moment where people blamed anything on satanic media like rock music, Dungeons and Dragons. There was just a bunch of chaotic fear-mongering going on. Now, some of these games were simple, just Bible quizzes, nothing major. Like, for example, this footage here shows off some of the first Christian video games.
Computerized Bible classes are the order of the day. The scriptures are being rewritten in the language of BASIC,
food and drink.
And young believers are encouraged to play video games to quench their thirst for religious knowledge.
We started with the story of Nehemiah rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, And since then, we've put together 2 programs on the Good Samaritan, somewhat different in style. We've done something on the parable of the sower. We've got a little game about Jonah. And I'm also working on a program which is based on one of the more obscure parables of Jesus, which will be essentially in game format, but which I hope will also have quite a strong educational aspect to it.
But this was back in the early 80s. What about the late 80s? Well, there was one company that was at the time a small producer of Christian games called Wisdom Tree Inc. Wisdom Tree Inc. was an associated company to Color Dreams, a company producing unlicensed video games for the NES. But how did they start making Christian video games? Someone came up with the idea of doing a Bible-based game, and people didn't really take it seriously. About 6 months later, work actually started on one. No one knew it was going to take off, but it took off like crazy. Color Dreams / Wisdom Tree Games would release the first game called Bible Adventures, a game very similar to Super Mario Bros. 2, which, if you didn't know, was actually called Doki Doki Panic in Japan, guys. I think almost no one knows that, right? No one knows that fact, guys. Did you know that? Did you? Because I don't think you do. The game had some Bible quotes slapped into it, and that is how a majority of these games are. They have Christian characters or Christian themes and are most of the time very shoddily made. And I mean, Color Dreams also made shoddily made games too, but hey wait, these 2 games look a bit similar. In fact, some of the Wisdom Tree games are actually the exact same as Color Dreams games released before, with some graphics added or changed to make the game more religious oriented. For example, Exodus is Crystal Mines with changed graphics, and Sunday Funday is actually Menace Beach with a few changed enemies and graphics. Yeah, see, Color Dreams actually had a lot of games that weren't performing as well in the unofficial licensed Nintendo market, so they just made them Christian to maybe try and get more funding. But around this time, Nintendo was going after unofficial licensed games on the NES by threatening any retailer that was selling Wisdom Tree games with ceasing their partnerships. And they were also suing other companies making these games, except for Wisdom Tree games. No one knows the exact reason, but most likely it is because Nintendo was too afraid of the backlash that would come from religious groups and parents if they went after a Christian game development group. Now, after releasing all of these games, Dan Lawton and his team were pretty tired of making Christian games, and he was interested in something else. Wolfenstein 3D had just came out around this time, and he had an idea. Hellraiser is a 1987 film about
explorers in the further regions of experience, demons to some, angels to others.
And Dan Lawton licensed the game rights for $50K. Now, of course, this might be a small surprising twist turn because a Christian game studio deciding to make a game that's literally about a movie called Hellraiser is not that easy to imagine. So they would work on the game by using the Wolfenstein engine, but issues would arise. Number 1, the public image of the company would be tarnished. Like, this would be if New Blood Interactive would start making family-friendly games. Grandma would fall off her chair if she saw the company she was buying games from for her grandkids start making satanic worshipping games. 2. Coding issues with the NES makes this game almost impossible to run, so they would move development to the PC platform, which was running well, until the final issue arose. Number 3, Doom. Wisdom Tree had good instincts because they knew that they would not be able to compete with fucking Doom of all games. So after all of this, someone at Wisdom Tree Games probably said, you know what, let's just make another Christian game. So they would let their license expire and they would go on and create one of the most well-known Christian games ever on the SNES called Super 3D Noah's Ark. This game is such an insane creation because a Christian FPS game is probably not something that you would think would exist, and knowing this was meant to be an official Hellraiser game makes this more insane. Plus, remember how I said most of these games were unlicensed? Well, the way they got this game to work on the SNES is by basically making the cartridge not be a cartridge at all, and make it more similar to a Game Genie. Video about the Game Genie might happen, who knows. Where you would have to get the cartridge and have to put it in an official cartridge by Nintendo, so that the console would get tricked into thinking it was running an official game instead of Super 3D Noah's Ark. because with the SNES, Nintendo made sure it was more protected against unofficial games, probably because they saw how many fucking games Wisdom Tree was pumping out on the NES. Also, a rumor that I heard from an AVGN video is that id Software actually gave the source code of Wolfenstein to Wisdom Tree Games because they were pissed at Nintendo for censoring the game on the SNES, but I didn't find any evidence for that statement. Wisdom Tree also made the last ever game to release on the NES in America, called Sunday Funday, which was obviously also a Christian game. But these were the late 90s. Games like Doom and Half-Life were coming out. Would a Christian game industry manage to work in the coming new millennium? The 2000s, the decade of some iconic games like Half-Life 2, Borderlands, Spore, Crysis, so many games we could talk about, but no, we won't talk about those sinful games. We will talk about the most holy of games. Now, around this time, the games industry was flourishing. More and more games were coming out that would be trailblazers, and which I would much rather be writing about, but too late, I already wrote most of this video. Now, in this era, a certain Christian game would release. A certain controversial game that even the most Christian of Christians did not enjoy. A game called Dance Praise. Hey yeah, Christian Dance Revolution. Shake your ass for the Lord! Should have called it Dance Revelations. That would have been funnier and better. Also, there was Guitar Praise, which was Guitar Hero but for Jesus. And the mobile versions of Dance Praise. Oh wait, no, I mean, wrong game. I mean Left Behind Eternal Forces.
Hey, chump! Where you going?
Hey guys, I don't want any trouble. I'm just going to a friend's house.
Well, that's gonna cost you because this is our turf, right? So what you got? Oh, look, you got a watch for you, Tyrone. Generous. Look at that.
Man, it ain't worth nothing.
Man, that's a piece of junk. What about money? How much money you got? Yes, right. Green ticket. E-Dog, take care of this food.
Come on, man. We ain't got all day.
That's right. Pay up, man.
Hey, yo, Snake. Check out this guitar, bro. I can play a few tunes.
No. I'm not giving you this.
What do you mean, no? Nobody tells us no.
No way. I'm not giving you my father's guitar.
Looks like you have no choice, chump.
God, give me courage and show them mercy.
Left Behind is a book series created by Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins. The books, yes, books as in multiple, follow a pilot, his daughter, a pastor, and a young journalist who call themselves the Tribulation Force. No joke. And it takes place after a 7-year period where most Christians have been raptured and non-believers are still on the earth because the Holy Spirit fucking hates them. And like, the world is in chaos, but a Romanian guy called Nicolo Geti Carpathia, cool name by the way, goes to the UN and says, yo, I can fix everything, and he like becomes the leader of the UN, but plot twist and spoilers, he is actually the Antichrist and he wants to do hell stuff, I guess. And listen, I haven't read the books. I think Nicolas Cage was in the movie version. Anyway, something, Tim hates the queers, yada yada, dislike the Catholic faith with queers. Alright, what matters is that there's a game based off of the franchise. Inspire Media was a company founded by Troy Linden, who was a gaming entrepreneur with the only purpose originally of making a game based off of Left Behind. But after a while, they also decided to make other Christian themed games. Now, this is where I hit a roadblock, because I don't know much about the development of this game, because if you head over to the Wikipedia, all it says about development is the game cost between $3 million to $5 million to produce. And I would look at the source, but it's paywalled by newspaper.com, which, come on, what the fuck, I just want to read this for more information. Yet I can't, and public archives don't have the damn article. But we do know something, and that is the game released. And oh boy, did it do a large splash in the industry, in a definitely good way. Irony. the use of words to express something other than, and especially the opposite of the literal meaning. Yeah, no, the game sucked. Not because it's an RTS game, but because it was just pretty bad. The graphics were dated and the gameplay was meh. And there were stuff that were pretty questionable, like how women were not allowed to do certain jobs like building. You can play as the Antichrist in the multiplayer version of the game and fight against the Christians, which I don't think a Christian game would really allow you to do that. But a major controversy was that in the game, you could either convert the atheist or kill them. And of course, this was seen as pretty bad by the atheists. Now, it wasn't really promoted, it even gave you penalties if you did that, but still, it was allowed to be done as the last resort, and it was questionable on why they added that in. But this also caused some misinformation, for example, that this game was very anti-Muslim, which obviously made people see the game as convert or get killed propaganda.
Here with the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CARE, says the video game depicts characters with Muslim-sounding names as the enemy and then guns them down.
Basically saying that
this got so bad and they were being dogpiled by everyone, and I mean everyone. This smart former attorney and activist Jack Thompson was also against the game. You might recognize him from the first video games and censorship video. The game is about killing people for their lack of faith in Jesus. The gospel is not about killing people in the name of the Lord, and Jesus made that very clear. Breaking news, guys, the LGBTQ+ community has forgiven Jack Thompson. People wanted this game off of Walmart's store shelves, and the game only managed to get $2 million, which was $1 million or maybe even $2 million loss. But yet, they still didn't give up, and were planning on making expansion packs. But before they could begin, they decided to threaten blogs that made fun of the game. To whom this may concern, I represent Left Behind Games Inc., the developer and publisher of the Left Behind series of video games. Your organization hosts a website that has information posted about this game. Unfortunately, there are many statements on your website which appear to be false and misleading. This type of misinformation may cause significant and irreparable harm to Left Behind Video Games Inc. and must be removed. Left Behind Games Inc. generally supports free speech in the media and understands how important it is to have various opinions presented for public consumption. It will not, however, tolerate the publication of information regarding its products that is false or misleading. Left Behind Games Inc. is demanding that you immediately remove any and all information contained on your site about the above stated game that is false and or misleading, including any such statement or commentary and the responses thereto. This includes posted comments made by others in the context of reading the incorrect or misleading statements. If you do not comply immediately, the company will be forced to pursue additional legal action, which will include claims for damages, cost of suit and attorney fees. This may subject you and or your organization to significant legal and financial damages. But these threats of course didn't work, because first off, fuck you, this is America, baby, we can say whatever the fuck we want. And secondly, they didn't say what was misleading or false. They just said it as if the blog knew what was misinformation. And the ship was slowly sinking. This is an alleged statement from the public relations director at the company, so take it with a bit of salt. The original game, Eternal Forces, became one of the most highly publicized games of 2006, as politically motivated groups launched an all-out war against the game by making false claims that the game included conversion to Christianity as a requirement or gave points for killing Muslims. This media frenzy resulted in featured stories on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, and BBC, and numerous other worldwide networks, and in print in the San Jose Chronicle, Newsweek, Wired, and many others. After more than 2 years and a third-party investigation, it was determined that the Tide Center, a taxpayer-supported non-profit, and others launched and paid for a campaign to smear the game and company, which may have resulted in a $2 million loss in shareholder value as the stock plummeted as a result of their misinformation campaign. And yet they managed to somehow make more sequels to the game, until their CEO was caught in a scandal where he allegedly gave 2 billion unregistered shares to a prison ministry's pastor. And so, after a while, this game would turn into a... But hey wait, this isn't a Tales from Abandonware episode? You have probably seen this clip.
Why?
Why? Popular meme from Vine. Well, this clip isn't some random video of a pastor. It's actually from a congregation about Pokemon.
I assure you that demons take it quite seriously. Satan takes it quite seriously. Your children need to know there's a devil and he hates them and he wants to ruin their life. There was even a couple of reports where children had been stabbed by other children over Pokemon cards.
The pastor here was heavily against Pokemon, calling it demonic and satanic. Now, I did mention a bit about the satanic panic, but I didn't go in depth, and I don't want to because this is a video about Christianity and video games. But let me quickly go into the stuff. Okay, so the news is a pretty polarizing thing, with them more or less caring about the headlines, and in the 70s to 80s, there were some crimes that were related to Satanism, crimes from the Manson family, and there being multiple films with satanic themes like The Exorcist and The Omen. Plus, this new game came out, and it was called Dungeons and Dragons. Ooh! With all of this, plus the rise of rock music, there was a panic from most Christians that the modern youth was turning to Satanism. So that meant we had to have more Jesus and more Christ in our media. And you would think that this was some old historical event that was just a crazy force and that it would never ever happen again. Well, that panic never really went away. But now it isn't Satanism, it's wokeness. Now, I don't like talking about politics that much. I know that this is a bit confusing, but I don't want to make this channel be political 24/7. I'm talking about games here, not elections. But if politics relates to the topic I am talking about, of course I will mention it because it's important. So, the conservative right is pretty Christian and has been fighting against the corrupt, woke, Satanist industry of modern entertainment for a while now. With an example being Gamergate, where people were not happy with game journalists. And this dynamic is a bit similar to the satanic panic, but instead of Satanism, it's more of a panic of people abandoning their traditional values. I mean, there are lots of channels that grift this type of content, where they are just reliving the satanic panic. Take the release of The Last of Us Part 2 for example, which I have never played. When it came out, it sparked a massive firestorm for many right-wing Christian gamers. The game wasn't just a story, it was seen as a symbol of an industry that they felt was forcing progressive ideology onto players because of the gay characters in the game. They saw it not as art, but as a political statement that clashed with their faith. And just like the pastor spreading false information about Pokemon, that Pokemon will make your kids worship Satan, we now see calls to boycott studios, reviews being bombarded, and a deep distrust of the mainstream gaming industry because this character got a pronoun. No, my fucking pronouns! The narrative is that the woke industry is the new satanic industry, corrupting the youth and pushing an agenda that supposedly contradicts the Bible. But here's a question. Is this new panic any different from the old one? Are we really fighting for the truth, or are we just fighting for our own comfort? Are we faithful witnesses pointing to the light, or are we just spreading propaganda about what the other side is doing? Is this just us repeating history? Is time just a flat circle? Because if we look closely, the woke panic and the satanic panic share the same DNA. Both rely on fear, both assume the worst about the other side, and both risk missing the actual point of the art, which isn't always about politics. Really, the real issue in all of this is how right-wing Christians do not engage with a media story because of something as minor as a gay character. The story could be about love, sacrifice, redemption, all Christian values, but because they have a linear thought process, they can't seem to move past this one thing. Personally, the idea of there being a game that is somewhat offensive to someone is a stupid thing. I remember someone, I can't remember their name, I don't know anything about them, once saying that we have to remove our moral gatekeeping from video games and realize that we should let video games be what they want to be by realizing video games are inherently offensive and that not every game is made for you. If you want the Christian games, go play Super 3D Noah's Ark. If you want to murder people brutally, play Hotline Miami. You don't have to play every video games, you control what games you play. To quote the Doom Twitter account, you control the buttons you press. But as we moved past the panic of the 90s and into the 2020s, there has been more Christian games that aren't, well, Christian. What I mean is that video games that have Christian themes aren't always the ones with Jesus on the cover or about the Bible. Most of these previous games felt in a way as if they were trying to shove Christianity down your throat, as if they were just a sermon disguised as entertainment, like those bad Christian movie knockoffs. But Nowadays, most games that have Christian themes aren't those ones. They were trying to prove that faith could be fun and entertaining, but in doing so, they sometimes forgot that faith is also about mystery, struggle, and grace. It's not about that these are the exact laws you have to follow unless you want to go to hell. Christianity is not meant to fearmonger people. It's meant to bring people together. The most spiritually resonant experiences for many believers and non-believers aren't coming from the Christian game industries. They're coming from mainstream titles that treats the human soul with the same complexity as the Bible does. Plus, most of these games aren't made by Christians, like at Celeste for example. On the surface, it's just another platformer that is about climbing a mountain and nothing else. But underneath, it's a raw and honest conversation about anxiety, depression, and self-acceptance. It doesn't preach a sermon about this is what is right and this is what is wrong. It lets you feel the weight of the climb, and then offers a hand up and support. For a generation of Christians struggling with mental health, that game has done more for their spiritual well-being than a million Sunday school lessons. Or how about Red Dead Redemption 2, which personally has the best representation of Christianity ever in a Rockstar game. Which is saying a lot. The game is a beautiful story of redemption and about how those who have sinned will be forgiven if they do something good with the time that they have left, and how
there is nothing to be afraid of, Mr. Morgan. Take a gamble that love exists and do a loving act.
In a world where some churches try to put down the youth for expressing themselves, games like these show off the true Christian mindset. It isn't about shutting people out because, oh, you weren't on my side, or oh, you believe in something else. It's accepting that that's how life is. It's supporting your neighbor in struggling times. It's making sure your family has good morals. It's trying to impact the world positively as God intended. It's not hating someone because someone told you to hate them. Most media that I as a Christian have seen isn't the Christian movies you find for free on YouTube. It's the ones you wouldn't expect that have sometimes the best Christian messaging. They don't even have to be made by a Christian to be wonderful Christian stories. Except VeggieTales, now that was a show everyone could enjoy. This brings me back to those painters in the museum. They learned how to paint, how to construct art. For what reason? Was it to grift to get millions to buy their paintings? No, it was to do one thing, create for faith, to spread the gospel of Jesus, which wasn't about hate, it was about respect, kindness, and mindfulness. The medium has changed from oil paints to video games, but the purpose remains the same, to create something that spreads the word of God. Yeah, that was the video. Yeah, I hope it was good. Yeah, so my next video is I don't know what it's gonna be about, but yeah, I can cross off this video from my list. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and as I say in all of my video endings, subscribe, do the likes, do the hypes, whatever those fucking things are. I have never used that feature. What the fuck do they even do? Maybe I might make the video about a topic that I've been thinking of for a while. I'm not gonna say it because no one see my ideas. They're so original. They're the most original ideas ever created. No, they aren't. But yeah, thanks for watching and subscribe.